actually seeing record.
Yeah, got it.
There it is. Thanks, Fraser. All right, everybody. Well, listen, welcome to tonight's magic show, because no one goes to a webinar. So, these aren't webinars. These are magic shows. So we're going to perform some magic tonight. And I would love to just get us rolling here right off the bat. So let me introduce my co-victim in crime tonight, Joe Elias. Joe, I'm guessing if you speak that you're going to come front and center most people's screen. So you want to just say hi and maybe just introduce yourself and how you came to be here tonight.
Hey, everybody. This is Joe Elias. I hope you're doing well. I have had the distinct pleasure of getting to know the Full Circle gang over the last several months. And it's one of those things where you meet a lot of people out in the world and very few of them do you actually like at the end of the day. This group is that group. Most of them. There's one I can't stand, but they know who they are. I've been working supporting chiropractic offices for the last 7 or 8 years and have really enjoyed just about every moment of it. So I'm excited to talk shop a little bit tonight and hang out and have a good time.
That's great. Thanks, Joe. And just because Joe is a incredibly humble guy, even though he's a genius at what he does, Joe ran a very large marketing agency for 11 years before he realized that maybe that was a license to get old fast and work 80 or 90-hour weeks. So Joe came to what I would perceive to be his senses and sold his share and went on to do some of the things he's doing now, which we'll talk a bit about tonight. So let's just talk a little bit about the journey at so far at Full Circle. If you're someone that's been following along or you're a client of ours, you will know that our model is made of 4 parts. Vision, which is the vision for your most authentic expression in this world, in both your personal life and your business. And then the focus pieces that may be blocking that vision from expressing itself as fully as possible. The systems that are necessary to express that vision as fully as possible, and the team that may be necessary, commonly is necessary, in order to express that vision as robustly as possible. So that's kind of our 4-part model. Tonight we're really focusing on a continuation of a series of working smarter, not harder. For those of you that probably know some of my background, but I grew up on a hobby farm in Northern Ontario in Canada, and I know what it's like to get up every morning, including Christmas morning at 6 a.m. and milk the cows and feed the horses and do that stuff. I also know what it's like to spend 14 or 16 hours a day in a hayfield or in the back of a tractor plowing land and all of that stuff. So I grew up with a mindset that said that the only way to really survive in this world and do something meaningful was to work really, really hard. And so for years, my default was to work really hard. And I haven't met that many people that can outwork me physically or mentally. I'm sure they're out there. I just haven't met them. But what I realized was that I was hitting my head on a glass ceiling. And I'll guarantee you that there's some of you, if not all of you on this call tonight, are hitting your head on the same damn glass ceiling, which is thinking that you just got to figure out a way to work more hours and work harder. Whereas our mantra at Full Circle is let's help you work smarter, not harder. And tonight, very specific with Joe's help, we're going to show you how to get some leverage and scale on the human resources side via automation in order to achieve that. Because if you're truly passionate about your mission, you guys, then you're going to want to get up on top of a rooftop somewhere and start yelling. If you're not that passionate about your mission, maybe we need to have a private conversation, okay? But if you're passionate about your mission, your purpose in life, and what you're here to do, then you're going to want to, again, not only just share it from the rooftops, but you're going to want to find a way to impact as many lives as possible because of the difference it can make in their lives and in your life, through fulfillment and through prosperity and through abundance and through joy and all of the many ripple effects that come when you're truly serving from your abundance authentically, from your most authentic self, right? And so we really have done a series on this. This is another one in the series. We'll talk about another one that's going to happen in December, and we certainly would love for you to be there. So let's talk a little bit about this. This is what Full Circle does. If you're new to Full Circle, on average, one of our targets is to help people make at least an extra 100K a year, and we have lots that make a whole lot more than that. But while you're taking an extra day off, how the hell do you make an extra 100K a year and take an extra day off every week? You got to work smarter, not harder, you guys, right? So hopefully that gives you context for what it is that we're doing tonight, okay? We know that there are 3 things that you need. Any business person anywhere in the world will tell you there's 3 things that you need in order to grow. You need a plan, you need tools, and you need support. And that's really the flagship of what we do at Full Circle is we develop what we call 90-day game plans. So you know exactly what you got to do when and where in order to move down the field, to use a sports analogy. We provide you with the plethora of tools that we've developed over the last 25 years. And then we support the living shit out of you through our coaching prowess in order to ensure that your plan actually gets activated and gets implemented. So for those that are new to Full Circle, welcome to our world, welcome to our family, welcome to our tribe. And this is how, you know, we roll. So tonight, I would offer that probably the majority of you had seen some sort of promotional piece, an email or something that said, do you want to make a bigger difference with your life? And I asked that question. So you know what, let's just get using the chat, you guys, because that's a whole lot more fun. How many people here, by just a simple yes into the chat, get your fingers moving? How many people would like to make a bigger difference with their life? Would like the planet to be a better place when they leave it than when they found it, right? There's a yes from Fraser, Jonathan, Joe, Dodie, Becca. Yeah, for sure. And again, I've said this many times, but it's worthy of repeating. That's something that's inborn to 99.99% of all humans I've ever interacted with, because it does not matter where I am in the world, where I'm presenting. I ask that question. Literally every hand in the room goes up, right? So again, if you want to make a bigger difference, we talked about mission and purpose. How is it you're going to do that? Well, if you want to make the biggest difference possible, you have to figure out how to leverage and scale what you're doing. If you can't create leverage and scale, then there's only one other way to make a bigger difference with your life. And if you want the secret, you guys, you got to lean in a little bit, okay? Here's the secret. If you want to make a bigger difference in your life and you don't want to leverage and scale, you got to work harder and longer. And in our world, that's not working smarter. That's working the opposite of smarter, okay? So how do we create leverage and scale? Well, let's just figure out how we do that. And I'm going to invite Joe to help me with this, because these are the most common things that he's seen and we've seen relative to how to, like, frustrations that people have in their practices that may inhibit them from creating that leverage and that scale, right? And so, Joe, let's talk a little bit about consistency. What are some of the things you've noticed in the offices you've been helping over the last 7-8 years? What is organized chaos look like, Joe?
I'll tell you, it is the best of intentions, and anything but that ever happening. I was happy to use this photo for this slide because I took my older son Gideon, who just turned 10 and is now knows everything in the world, but I was able to take him to a concert performance, and we had a really good view of the conductor, and he was in awe of all of the different instruments playing their different sounds and things. And I asked if he thought that it was a hard job being the conductor of the orchestra, and he said, well, but he's not playing anything. So, okay, but if he starts doing this, everything sounds terrible. And so being able to conduct your own symphony in your office is a lot more than just waving the little stick around, right? It's understanding the things that need to happen, but also making sure that they do happen. When I audit offices that I talk with, I hear one story and then I experience a different one. Calls don't necessarily get returned every time because you get busy. Emails don't get returned because they slip through the cracks or they end up in spam. There's all these one-offs or well-but situations, and unfortunately they add up into a lack of consistency, which prohibits you from making good progress because you really don't know if what you're doing is working effectively. When you have a new idea and you test it, there's a tendency to try it a couple times, and then when it doesn't work, abandon it. But it's really just a case of once we get consistent with the process, with an idea, with a message, that's when we can really start to see results. And it's something that I think a lot of us would like to have more of, and are always looking for. Does that make sense?
Agree. Yeah, no, couldn't agree more, Joe. There's no question. Well, one of the other things that we talked about as we were putting our heads together for exactly what some of the challenges were to leverage and scale, it's ensuring that there's accountability. And you just actually spoke to this, Joe, a little bit. I think the two are somewhat linked in that, in order to ensure that it's one thing to be able to be waving the wand and say, this is the direction we want to head, but then being able to delegate that and to create the leverage and the scale that you need. And you got to be sure that you get, buy-in from your team and that they're actually following through. And if they're not following through and they're not, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, we have a saying in our company that crap flows downhill. And the person who's always at the bottom is me, the founder. Always the owner, the principal in the business or the company or the practice that it tends to flow to. So without accountability, you're going to hear about the I's that aren't dotted, the T's aren't crossed from your clients, from your patients, from the people that matter. So, again, I know that there's challenges with accountability. By the way, just in terms of the chat, right? Anybody ever had a team member commit to something and then not follow through? Anybody, just throw a me into the chat, please. I'd love to just see if there's, I'm the only human on the planet that leads a team that has team members who commit to things but then don't follow through. Yeah, Becca says me, Jonathan me, Scott's me. Yeah, there's definitely some other people out there. So apparently, Joe, we're not alone in this piece. One of the other frustrations is being able to optimize things. And maybe you could just spend a minute or so, Joe, talking about that, because you've certainly seen how that can impact a practice as well.
Sure. I don't think there's anybody who would disagree with the statement, winners keep score. It's a real easy thing to throw out there and we all nod our head, of course, but it's much more difficult to do that. If you're a sports nut at all, by the way, my last name might sound a little bit familiar, Elias, because it's the first part of the Elias Sports Bureau. We've been keeping every sports statistic for every major sport worldwide since 1941. And that takes a lot of time and effort to track the numbers so that we can report on how well different players are doing in their games. And just like all of those athletes who need to know their stats so that they can improve, we need to know more than just the bottom line, right? If you log into your business checking account and you look at that number, that's not your metric, right? There's a lot of other things that you need to be able to know so that you can control them. Things like, how much does it cost to actually market to get a patient? How many clicks does it take for somebody to sign up for care? How many referrals does an average patient generate over the first year? These aren't obtuse numbers that I would want to know just for the sake of being difficult to work with. These are numbers that leverage the business. I'm also difficult to work with.
Tell me about it, Joe.
And it's something that I found almost everyone is challenged at, because to get all the numbers that you really need to know to manage your practice effectively, well, one of them's over here, and then a couple are over here, and the one's over here. And so you end up having to be an Excel guru to be able to know how to build things to track the numbers to show you if you're doing well or not. And it's really intimidating because you're not an analyst working at a big company, working in spreadsheets all day. You've got a couple other things on your plate. So this is really a challenge, right? How do we understand what the numbers are and be able to track them in a meaningful way so that we know, if we can get our cost of patient acquisition down from $225 a patient down to $150, what does that do for us? And is that really the number that we're looking to move? Or is there a better statistic that we should be tracking so that we can make meaningful change in an effective way?
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. We have a system in our company, which I know you're familiar with, Joe, called 5 dials, which I learned from my mentor, Dan Sullivan, a strategic coach, where he had an airplane pilot clients who were like, there's 200 dials to run a big jet, but to look at 200 dials every second of every minute of every flight, you'd go out of your mind. But they funneled it into 5 very specific key dials that then maybe feed out to 20 or 40 other dials, right? But again, the moral of the story is, if you don't know what moves the needle in your business, it's very unlikely you're going to be able to make a bigger difference, in your business with leverage and scale. Okay, and here's what we know is true. And again, for those that don't know, I've been coaching now for consulting now for 25 years. If you aren't getting consistent results, if you don't have accountability, if you're not optimizing, you don't know where things are, and you don't know how to look for them, then you're going to end up on a plateau. And pretty much every human I've ever met in the world of business, particularly in the world of chiropractic, has been a prisoner to the plateau we talk about, right? Where they're just on a plateau in their practice, and it's good. You know what? It's not bad. They're feeding the kids. They're going on some holidays. They're doing some things, but there's that itch they can't scratch, that they know there's more they could do. There's more they could give. There's more fulfillment. There's more prosperity. There's more lives they could touch and impact. And so you get stuck. So that's the risk, you guys, if you don't get some of these things that we just discussed, dialed in. So then, what are some solutions? Well, in classic business writings, you'll know that if you're going to leverage and scale, the two most common ways it's been done historically is to add human resources or add technology or automation, okay? And I would advocate for definitely, particularly in this era of human history, that you don't think, let's see if I can add a bunch of people to the payroll, right? That's a license for less profit at the end of the day, end of the year. But if you can add technology and automation, then you're able to create leverage and scale, make a bigger impact, which again, I'm going to suggest everybody in this call wants to do. You can do that without having to add to your payroll. Because you know what, I love working with people. They're my greatest joy. And the big secret is they're also my greatest frustration, because they are humans and they're not perfect, just like me. And so again, I would rather work with 5 really dedicated people that are on the ball and I can trust and respect and get accountability with, than, and then some automation and technology, rather than 100 people that just don't know how to don't know how to do things but push my buttons at times, right? So adding technology is another thing. The other thing, and Joe, you see this a lot when you do in-office consults, right, is just helping people recognize that they have, and we talk about it a lot at Full Circle, what we call your authentic ability. One of the reasons that creative intelligence loved you into existence. And yet people tend to not stay in their lanes, right? Could you speak to that for a minute, Joe?
Sure. I live in the world of technology, and part of my lane is knowing what is out there and how effective is it, because I bring technology together, I weave it into something effective, and then I help doctors, utilize that. And ClickFunnels is a really good example. ClickFunnels is a bit of software everybody's heard of at some point. Most of us probably have a subscription. I do. ClickFunnels is really good at selling you on the idea that being a pro marketer is just around the corner for you. They have all these videos and trainings and workshops and annual conferences where they bring in really expensive people to stand on a stage and talk at you. And the idea is that no matter what you do, you can also be a marketing guru. And that's not their business model. Their business model is simply to keep you on subscription for their software. So the more they throw stuff at you, the higher it piles up, the more you focus on, well, I got to learn it all so I can use it. And then I'll be able to do something with it. But you never get through the pile because they keep adding things on top. So I think there is a lot of value in your office and understanding what are the things that you're really good at and you want to do really well and you want to spend your time on. I had a consult with a doctor in New Jersey a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about me giving him some help because his chiropractic assistant just left one day. It was just kind of hands in the air and walked out. And it had been a couple of weeks, and he was calling leads that were requesting appointments because it was just him. He didn't have enough time to hire anyone. So he was calling leads under a fake name because for some reason he was worried that people didn't want the doctor calling. So he had his own assistant, which was his own, some other name he came up with. And he was doing those calls and would run it. And he was kind of proud of, well, if they want to talk to the doctor, I'd say, just a second. Hello, it's Dr. Blah, blah, blah. And as proud as he was of this idea he came up with, my thought was, how much of your time are you wasting by having to do all of it? Like it's fun because it's different. And it's exciting because it's different, but it's not helpful because it's different. This is not what you should be paying yourself to do. And we, resolve that. But being a business owner, really of any kind, this can be a big problem because it's exciting to get to do different things. And when you're the boss, you get to control your own time. No one's, in theory, going to yell at you if You take an extra weekend off and go do some marketing training with ClickFunnels. But the impact of veering out of your lane and weaving all over the place does get felt, if not in the immediate, in the long term, because that conditions you to no longer ask people for help. And when you stop asking people for help, you wall yourself off, and that's how we go out of business, right? We never understand why it happened. We just know that it did happen. And ultimately it's because we didn't have anybody looking out for us. So staying in your lane, can really grow. Especially as we have all these self-driving cars these days, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Jonathan, if you're listening from your Tesla, I mean, hey, you're a prime example. I was thinking, a classic scenario that I was just reflecting on one of my mentors had talked about when he was early in practice. And, again, he understood the concept of staying in his lane, as a doctor, right? And he, the most jurisdictions as a chiropractor, the things that we can do and the only we can do is, diagnose, assess, diagnose, and adjust. All the other things could be delegated out, right? But he kept wandering into the front desk to see what was going on there. And so his front desk staff actually got a mirror. And every time he'd come and lean over the front desk, see what was going on, they put the mirror up in front of him like this. And they're like, yeah, doc, anything? What, is there something up your nose? You want to kind of look up your nose? You want to see what's going on up there? It's like, he apparently cured him in a short period of time. So staying in your lane, very effective strategy. And also, a weather report. A weather report is a great way to know exactly where things are at. Well, or as close as they can with climatologists today. But anyways, to get an assessment of the state of affairs. And Joe, again, just let's speak to that briefly, because you've certainly had a lot of experience with this, with some of the automations you've been able to set up to just really let docs know. Because my experience at Full Circle is most docs really don't know their numbers. They really don't know their 5 dials. They really don't know the state of affairs. They're kind of in this vague fog of indifference that they just don't even know where they're at. And then they realize they're in a bit of a crisis because the bank account's down. So, oh crap, we better get marketing and get doing something. And they start to push it out, right? But there is a way to actually get an awareness, Joe. And let's just chat about that for a brief minute.
Sure. So there's 3 things that I do when I wake up in the morning. And one of them is look at the weather on my phone, because that's going to drive a lot of my day. How am I going to dress? Do I need to prep the kids on our way to school for anything extra? It conditions my morning. And the day's weather report kind of lets me get settled in for the here and now. And, in the office, I can think of a weather report for the day being, the schedule and how far back are we on tasks, and a handful of other things, but quick, right? I can look at it very quickly. I can see, is it going to be sunny, cloudy, stormy? The other half of the weather report's the forecast. And the forecast is important because that's going to dictate not just what we do today, but what we do over the next, several days, 10-day forecast, right? 10-day forecast is going to let me know, am I going to spend my weekend working in the house, working outside of the house, on the lawn, making sure the snow boots are out, activity down the way. And the weather report is effective because if I had to go pull out my farmer's almanac and then look at, cloud formations and all these other things, I'd spend so much time trying to understand it that the day would pass me by, and this wouldn't be helpful. So in business and in practice, being able to have statistics about the business that can give you what's the day ahead look like, meaning, am I going to have time for professional development? Am I going to be able to cross anything off my list? Can I shoot 2 more videos for my YouTube channel, et cetera? And then the longer term is, what do my bookings look like for the next 15 days? How many new patients are coming in, et cetera? That lets me understand what does my next week or 2 look like. It gets us away from that situation where we just start feeling, right? Like we don't look at the data anymore. We just go by that gut. And our gut tells us that things are going badly when we're bored in the office because patients aren't coming in. And then some salesperson comes in offering to sell an ad for us, and we panic and we say, sure, maybe that'll help us. And it throws us into further disarray. So we don't need, like the stock exchanges with all the screens around the walls with numbers flashing every second of every moment. That would be overwhelming. But being able to just know in business, what's my day look like? What's my next 10 look like? that should give us a pretty good understanding of how we can prep for our current day's activity and what we're going to be doing around the bend, so to speak.
Yeah,
Does that make
absolutely.
sense?
Yeah, it does. And actually, what I just noticed, Joe, and thank you for picking a weather report diagram that must have came from Canada, because it feels like -22 in this one. So Joe takes good poking fun at us Canadians at times, right? The other piece too that I think everybody's really craving, and that comes with leverage and scale, it's a byproduct of it, is literally just having that time freedom. And in the world that I live in, at the risk of projecting my values onto you guys, I definitely value time more than any other thing in the world, more than money or mechanical or material things or whatever, right? Because time is the one thing you can never buy more of, And so all of these things, by knowing exactly where you're at, what we call the weather report, looking at these other things we've discussed, can actually give you that time freedom that most of us crave. And that's what, I think that when we're looking at leverage and scale, that's another massive benefit, massive byproduct of that, is to get that time freedom, because now you're working, again, let me say it for the 15th time, working smarter, not harder and longer. Okay. So let's just have a look at this. The other nice byproduct of leverage and scale is you become a lot more profitable and you become a lot more productive. And those two things are pretty much always hand in glove. And, I will put in a very not so subtle pitch for one of the reasons I love the chiropractors of the world to get more productive and profitable, is because I'm sitting on a steering committee for a brand new chiropractic college here in Canada, Four Directions Chiropractic College. Fraser and Jason are with me tonight, two of the other four members of the steering committee. And I absolutely guarantee you that we will be knocking on your door virtually and asking if you would like to be part of that vision, part of that future. And you know what? I was humbled one time. Well, I've been humbled many times. But I was thinking specifically 1995 when I went to the 100th year chiropractic centennial in Davenport, the mothership of all chiropractic. And there was a 100-year centennial video that Guy Riekemann had taken the control of the leadership of putting this amazing video together. And we wanted to get it, aired on national television. And it was going to cost a bunch of money. And different networks got lobbied and stuff, and we were getting no's and no's. And finally, there was that last minute where, we could actually get it aired on Fox, but we had to come up with, I think it was $350,000 in the next 48 hours. And so Guy just put out a pitch to the chiropractors that were there. There was hundreds of us in the Blackhawk Theater in Davenport. And I'll never forget old Doc Harris with the red beret, right? Either was sort of like, we could really use some help, you guys. And then the whole auditorium went quiet. And everybody's like, oh man, I'd like to help, but I don't know, I'm not making that much money, right? And old Doc Harris, he stood up with his red beret and he goes, Dr. Guy, I'd like to be the first one. Would 100,000 get us jump started? I'll never forget that. He just pulled his friggin' checkbook out of his front pocket and wrote a check for 100K out of his personal checking account. That inspired me. I was pretty early in practice, but I wrote a check for what I thought would be comfortable at the time, about $5,000, because I wanted to play my part. But man, I would have loved to have written a check for 100,000 or 300,000 or $1 million or some other number, you guys, right? There's a lot of reasons to become profitable in this life besides just padding your own pockets. There's philanthropy, there's paying it forward, there's things like schools that you could support, and otherwise. And leverage and scale through automation can actually help you accomplish that. All right. Let's talk a little bit. Joe, you've had, obviously, in the last 7-8 years, some experience helping some folks, just like many of the folks on this call. So let's talk about this Dr. Ennis here and tell me where he was when you met him, and, where some of the, programs, protocols you've been able to help him with have taken him to.
Sure. So Dr. Ennis and I have been together for a while now, and he was my fourth mic. For some reason, of my first 5 clients, when I really shifted my business into heads of practice several years ago, 4 of the 5 were mics. The 5th was a Frank. I don't know what his problem was. He wasn't cool with me calling him Mike for some reason. But Dr. Ennis is a NUCA specialist, upper cervical, down in Texas. And when I first started working with him, it was him and his wife did the dietary nutritional programs for the office. And then he had 2 chiropractic assistants, a scheduling person, and an office manager and a front desk person. So his care was working with, he had basically 6 people supporting him in his office. And with Nuka Care, one of the challenges is there's such a radical misunderstanding. And I think this is prevalent throughout our industry. And I didn't bring any soapboxes into my office in here, so I can't stand up on one and give a speech. You'd cut me muted anyway if I did. But the big challenges for him, one, where people didn't really understand what it was he did. When he talks about only adjusting Atlas and not, elbow dropping you on the table and all these other things, he really struggled to be able to get his message out, because there were some really fantastic specific things that his care and protocols could do that frankly nobody else in his area could do. There's one other Nuka person 45 minutes away. So he really struggled to understand a way to get his message out. But additionally, he had this big staff, and they all did a bit of something in the process, right? Like an assembly line. But he wasn't able to really manage all of everything that was happening. And so we found early on, as we were digging through and building a dashboard and looking at what's the marketing flow look like from a lead to an interested lead to a prospect to a new patient to a care plan, et cetera. And while he was initially shaking his head, yeah, we do that. Yeah, we do that. When I asked him to prove it to me, we found there were a lot of gaps. And so we started to implement just getting really granular with what are all the things that need to happen. And then we made sure that there was a process put in place that didn't require him managing everything all of the time, but at least keeping up to date with what was happening in the office. And then we fundamentally changed the way he talked about his business. We took his healthcare workshops that he did twice a month and moved them online. We made them evergreen so that anyone could find them day or night and watch them and then request care. We moved online scheduling, a couple other bits and pieces, but today he has a single office manager that's doing the work of what it was previously 4 people. The systems are automated to do the vast majority of his new patient interaction. And we have really dialed in the advertising process so that, like, we know going into January, we have a campaign that we've harnessed over the last 4 or 5 years that consistently brings in 60 to 70 new patients between January 10th and March 1st. So there's no, what should we do? Are we going to do it? Well, I need more patients. How about this? How about that? We have the start of the year dialed in, and that propels him so far into the year, because every new patient brings on average 2 new referrals, and on and on and on and on. So everything becomes self-motivating, right? The patients bring in more patients. The marketing is not very difficult because we understand it. We don't have to keep hiring advertising people all over the place who come in and do something different every time. We've got a pretty, I'd say if you sat in on our calls, we don't really talk about a whole lot because we've got it really dialed in. And we get to spend our time talking about growth and development. We actually just this year celebrated, we successfully cloned him. His son Brandon is now in practice with him as well, and that's something that he had wanted ever since Brandon was a little bitty dude. He's about 1.5 feet taller than Dr. Mike here now, so he's not the little bitty dude anymore. But he's getting to do the things he wants. His wife helps with nutrition. His son helps with patients now. So there's a family dynamic, and he has a couple support, his support person who's making sure that the office is running. But now they're really free to do what they want in practice, instead of, getting stuck and flailing. And it's been a really good experience. Working one-on-one with doctors like Dr. Ennis gives me fuel for building better programs for everybody else. Because when we hit on something, he's a great dude and I love working with him and we have a lot of fun together. But he's not he's not up on a mountaintop by himself. There are a lot of really great specialists who have his passion out there. They just don't have our process that has allowed him to get out there and meet people and know that every time he does a talk or that somebody comes in, the exact same thing happens every single time. And we just look at the data to know that we're doing better than we were, this time last year.
Very cool. And out of that comes that time freedom and that mental freedom and the ability to, again, to stay in your lane and do what it is you love to do. Because, I've rarely met a doc who loves to be, an eight-armed octopus that's, dealing with all of the office dynamics and all the administration and all the marketing pieces and doing all the adjusting and doing all the strategic planning and, all the many things that you could or would need to do in order to scale and leverage and make a bigger difference in your life and your practice, right? So that's one of the great ways that automation can really help with that. So let's just, push on and let's just, let's put some thoughts into this, right? There's 5 key components, Joe, that we've identified that can actually allow this process that we've been talking about, some of the frustrations, some of the benefits to really take root, right? One of them is qualifying new patients. Another one is to automate scheduling. Another one is to automate and get even better and more specific new patient education, and creating a way to create story building and testimonials, as well as dealing with the never-ending hurdle of reactivations for practice members who get off track. So let's just take these one at a time, Joe, and let's just go in and start talking about qualifying patients. And again, just noting the time, let's be efficient, but also let's be sure that we can tell the story as needs to be told. So let's talk about how using to create leverage and scale, to get the time freedom, to be able to stay in our lanes, all the other things we talked about, Joe. How does qualifying patients actually help accomplish that?
It's a good question. I think in a lot of cases, when I talk about qualifying patients, the first thing I get back is, okay, my quality patient is someone in front of me with a wallet. Like, okay, fair enough, right? Like that fills the gap in the moment. Like I have a dead spot on my calendar, I want to fill it. But when you do get busy enough, like, we all know when the wrong patients are coming in, right? Like you see your schedule, you see somebody's name on the list and your shoulders just slump a little bit because, they're either not going to listen, or maybe they probably won't even show, or they're not referring like they should be and bringing other people in and sharing the good news. And so a qualifying process is helpful. And quite frankly, it's really focused on the patient. It's not a selfish act of, I only want to work with people who are going to think and act like me and do what I tell them to. That's not what we're looking for here, because qualifying patients gives us the ability to share what our ideal client is, which means that for the people out there who would be that, we're going to do a better job at targeting them. If you've ever listened to any marketer, anytime you hear things about like niches and avatars and all these other academic phrases about that boil down to, who do you really want to work with? And taking the time to build a patient qualification process really just puts that out there into the world. Sure, I can help with all of these things, but quite frankly, out of the 10 things I can do, there's 3 I really love to do, and there's 2 I'm super duper passionate about. So if we're going to spend our time, money, and effort advertising, shouldn't it be about those things that we really are passionate about? Because I think it comes across when you talk about it, you really light up, and it's easy for you to come up with ideas to share about it. And qualifying patients can really be just as simple as having a bulleted list of information. We're looking for people who have young kids at home and feel like they're always tired and just can't get things done, and they don't sleep well. You can probably rattle off a list of some of the things that make that quality patient. So a really simple way is sharing that information in whatever booking process you use so that people see it. You can certainly go more complex than that. I have doctors I work with who actually have an application to work with them. And it's not just a booking form gussied up a little bit to look like it's more important than it is. But it's just, step process. The first step is understanding the core of my care. Second is understanding your commitment to my office. The third step is understanding why I don't deal with insurance companies. The fourth step is, this and that. And having a progressive qualifying process means that when somebody comes out at the other end of that, they already know who you are, what you do, how you can help them. And odds are your experience with them is going to be a lot better, which means that their experience is going to be great. And it's going to be more likely that they're going to refer people in, and they're going to show up for appointments. They're going to do the things that you've asked them to do with supplements, et cetera. So, qualifying patients, I think, is really important. And it's something that a lot of us miss if we're not really full, because we boil it down to, I'll take the next, whoever will come in. Does that make sense? Do you see value in why it's important to qualify people in that way?
Yeah, I sure do, Joe. Right. And again, it's about the joy and the bliss, right? And scarcity consciousness would have us believe that, if we don't take every warm body that walks across our desk, that, oh my God, then, we're going to be this, that, the sky is falling, which is a scarcity mindset. And we've talked a lot about that at Full Circle, helping people reposition that mindset. But when you're qualifying people, it just makes life easier, makes it more fun and more joy. And, don't forget, you guys, the ripple effect, right? If you're working with people that, one of my patients, God bless her, I loved her to pieces, but Darlene in my office, she could, I'm not exaggerating a bit, she could talk the leg off a wooden table. I mean, she's just that person, right? And so every time, she was coming in, I was always kind of like, Darlene's coming, right? And my staff had a policy that, when Darlene was there, is that when the time slot that was allocated for her, when she was within a minute of that, they would walk over and they would knock on the door or the edge of the table if I was in the open area, and they'd come back and I'd go, yes. And they'd go, Dr. Preston, you have patients waiting. And it would be a sign to Darlene to shut the F up. And she would commonly go, oh, I'm taking too much of your time. I'm sorry, Doc, I'll go. But the moral of the story was, as much as I love Darlene, she was a pain in the ass to work with, right? Wouldn't it be great to have every practice member being somebody you actually enjoyed doing with? Qualifying people is a way to do that. Let's talk about the second one, Joe, which is scheduling. How can we help make our lives easier, more efficient, more effective, and less headachy through scheduling using tools?
Yeah, this one's super simple. If you don't do online automated scheduling, you're losing business for no reason. On average, someone who's looking for care will go and fill out a form. And if it doesn't let them book an appointment and they feel like they're done, if they can't check it off in their head, they're going to go look at 4 more offices, which means that the next morning at whatever time you open, the great race begins, right? Who's going to call them first? How many times are we going to call them? And, I bet out of every 10 patient requests that you get, a very small number of them actually get all the way through without a substantial amount of work. When I move my doctors to online automated scheduling, at the very least for new patient appointments, which is a lot easier than you think it is. You take 7 slots in your week where you normally take new patients, you put it in an online automated calendar, and you put on the page, this is a request. You're going to request it. We're going to call you to confirm. It's no different than if I called your office and said, hey, this is Joe. I want to be a patient. Can I come in Wednesday at noon? It's the exact same thing. But what I've learned since doing online automated scheduling is that the vast majority of appointment requests come in outside of office hours because people work, people go to school, people do the things that keep them busy. And when they're at home at the end of the day and they're in pain, when they get up in the morning and they're restless, when they give up on their weekend plans because they just don't feel rejuvenated yet, they look for help. And if your system doesn't let them check that box off in their head that they have found it, so they know who, what, and when, they're going to keep looking, and odds are they're going to not end up with you. So that's my whole thing. It's super easy. I've yet to find a reason why you can't do it. And it makes a huge difference because it lets people say yes without us having to call and do that whole back and forth.
Well, and I remember when we showed this program to Shazia, our head admin trainer, who's got 20 plus years experience. I mean, she just about did cartwheels. She's like, oh my God, the amount of free time I'm going to have so I can be present time conscious with the people when they're in front of me at the desk, instead of, juggling 17 things at once, trying to do all of this other stuff, with a good chunk of that being involved with callbacks and scheduling and all that. And let's face it, gang, you know what? Here's another secret. It ain't 1990 anymore. Okay. There's this newfangled thing called the internet and online booking and things, that can help make life a lot easier. And of course, the vast majority of people are living a good chunk of their lives on these things, right? Mm-hmm. And so they can, book appointments from anywhere and everywhere. And, there's a certain point, you guys, that if you want to stay relevant in the culture, you got to get with the times, right? And so there's lots of other sort of psychological pieces here, gang, we should be not overlooking, right? Let's talk about education, patient education. Joe, How does that help us get time freedom and get away from hassles?
Yeah. So particularly if you're in a specialist office, or no matter what it is, it's important early on in the process to get people to understand your care as quickly as possible. Because if somebody comes in for a one and done, they're not going to get as much help as if we were able to develop a care plan, see them through it, make adjustments as we go along. They'll be better off for it. And that's what you're looking for, right? You want to take care of the people around you. The problem is when somebody comes in as a new patient, your time's really limited because they don't know you all that well. They may not like you just yet. They sure don't trust you just yet. And unfortunately, what tends to happen in that first session is, okay, great. Welcome to the office. Here's our brochure and here's our nutrition guide. And here's this. And here's our referral card. And there you go. Read all of this before tomorrow afternoon for your report of findings. And look, we all know, just like with a dentist, when they ask me, did you floss? I'm like, twice in the parking lot every day, 14 times a day. And they're like, no, you don't. I pay the hygienist to just nod along like, oh, he's the one. He's the one who flosses. They don't look over it because it's too much, right? They come in with a lot of questions. They're nervous. They're looking for relief. You tell them that maybe, they need to come back for a separate appointment. So now they've got all these other questions. And when we give them too much stuff, it's going to sit in the passenger seat of the car, which is my inbox. It's not one I'm good at working through. Taking that material and spreading it out so that it's easy for people who are learning about you online and are requesting appointments. I think there are probably 4 or 5 points before they even come into the office where you can share a 3-minute video. If you've got a flyer from your supplements program you want them to see, put it on the webpage, email it to them, give them little bits and pieces so that they can fill their in-between times with what they need to learn a little bit more. And if you make it, a multi-step process where it's, watch this 3-minute video and then do you agree or not? Hit the button. Well, that can report back to you so that they did it. And then you don't have to play the guessing game when they come in and you say, did you do the things I asked you to? Because, the system shows you. I have a specialist that I work with in Western Kentucky, and his core focus is on autoimmune care. And that can be very complex. And so one of the problems he ran into was that overeducation, right? He would become a professor because he knows so much and he really cares about these people. But on the flip side, in autoimmune care, they've already done a lot of research as well. So it's just adding on and adding on. They're looking for relief. You're looking for a lecture, to give a lecture. And so what we did was we broke out that experience into 6 2 or 3 minute videos, and we put them on a page and we give them a worksheet in the office. And so when they come in for their exam, they leave with, this is not the one, this is a form, but they get like a 1-pager with a little QR code. They scan the code when they get home or when they're bored, and it pulls up the videos that they're supposed to watch. And it's made a really big difference. People are saying yes to care. They're saying yes to larger care plans because they really understand it. And most importantly to him, they're coming into the office with questions. I saw in the testimonial video from Karen that you did blah, blah, blah. Tell me that I feel that way too. Can you help me with that? So he's getting more information from people just by breaking out the education process and let them access it before coming into the office, so that it actually gives them some good questions to ask. And there's more dialogue, which means you've got a better opportunity to really talk about what you can do to help them instead of, the history of chiropractic care and what an adjustment is and all those things that can just take up so much time.
So I'm really curious. Let's go to the chat, you guys. Get your fingers moving to make sure that everybody's still staying with us here. How many people here have heard themselves say the same thing over and over at least 100 times to at least 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 patients? Anybody? Just put a me in the chat. Anybody been like me and said the same thing over and over and over and over and over again to the point where it just becomes, ad nauseum? Yeah, Jonathan's going, yep, me, I have. I've got Becca's giving me a me. Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is the piece, right? And one of my early lessons, Joe, and this was Phyllis Tremaine. God bless Phyllis. I was a talkaholic. I was a lecturer. I wanted to be a university prof. Apparently, I can remember doing 45-minute report of findings, 45 minutes, and me just yippity, 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 yip. And I swear Phyllis had a petite mal seizure. Her eyes rolled back on her head. She fluttered a couple of times, and I realized that she was not connecting with the damn thing I was saying. The other story I have about education, Joe, and certainly you talked a lot about it on the front side, but it's the ongoing education. It's the drip education over time. And I have my Betty story. Betty was with me, a practice member under wellness care, on average twice a month for 14 years. 14 years. You figure after 14 years, Betty's got it. No, Betty doesn't. One time, Betty missed an appointment, and so we were concerned because she was elderly, and the staff's policy was to physically call her because we didn't have technology to do it for us, Joe, wink, wink. And they called Betty, and there's Betty okay? And she goes, well, yeah, but do you want to rebook? And she goes, no. And so that was a flag for me to call. So I called Betty. I said, hey, Betty, it's Dr. Tom. She goes, hey, Dr. Tom, how are you? I'm great. And I said, Betty, you missed your appointment. We were concerned maybe you'd fallen and couldn't get up. So I thought I'd better check in with you. And she goes, oh, no, Dr. Tom, I'm fine. I'm great. I said, oh, well, thank God for that. Well, let's get you rebooked then so we can keep you, under care and keep you well. And she goes, oh, no, I'm great. She goes, no, I love you, Dr. Tom. You're great, but I'm done. I said, you're done? What do you mean you're done? She goes, oh, I'm done with chiropractic care. That's, 14 years, and she's done. It's like, why? And I went back in. Guess what? Dumb person here hadn't done a progress report in about 3 years. We had no drip education system. She had no ongoing way to keep nurtured to understand the big idea of what it was we were doing. So education, in my opinion, should never end. And using automation, you don't have to remember, dummy, that you haven't done a progress report in 3 years, right? So let's carry on, Joe. We talked about testimonials and how these can be amazing, and it's becoming a bigger deal literally every year to get third-party endorsement. Let's talk, Joe, about how testimonials can be automated.
Yep. So testimonials are good, right? That's the end of the build-up there. 8 out of 10 people who book online review testimonials before they will do anything. So it's important to have them. The challenge, though, is that when we ask about testimonials, when do we do it? After we fix the thing, right? I wonder if this is as common as I think it is. You have a patient, they've been under care for some time, they've seen tremendous progress. You do your progress report, you ask them how they're feeling, you're ready. You're ready for that big thank you, doctor. You made me a better person. And they say, well, I'm feeling pretty okay, but my shoulder is still a little sore. And you want to grab them by the throat and be like, you had a limp when you came to see me for the first time. You couldn't jog and your arm still hurts. What are you talking about? People have a short memory. So what I found has been really helpful is capturing at point of initial commitment, like when they're coming in for new patient exams, doing almost I call it like a time capsule testimonial. They're watching videos, they're getting tests done, but to record like a 1 minute video talking about why they came in for the for that time, because we can really at that point capture, I have a limp, or I can't move my neck, or they're really in the moment, they're in the pain, they're in the problem. And then when we go to reevaluation time, and when we would normally ask for a testimonial, we do the second half. I want to get you to do a short video about how you feel now, and then being able to show them side by side is great recall. Oh my gosh, I forgot about all the problems that I had. And so it really helps drive home the change with each patient. It also creates killer before and after video content, because unless they're giving away really private moments in those videos, which rarely happen, and obviously with their permission, we can take those two videos and just kind of jam them together, and then we use that as an ad. Are you like Joe? Joe was a couch dad. He was tired all the time. He was cranky. He couldn't really keep up with his kids. Now he's coach dad. He's coaching soccer, even though he never played it as a kid. And he's always out there for the moments, and he's loving everything. watch the transformation. Do you feel like that? I can help. So we take the whole story, and not only do we get a better testimonial from that person, and it's easier for them to refer other people as a result, but it gives us advertising content as well. It fundamentally changes the way we treat testimonials, because now it's not I'll go find I'll go find my person who's been around for a decade, and I'll ask them to do a quick Google review, because that's not really going to do it. You need a consistent process that will generate good review content, good testimonial content with, basically every patient every time. It'll make a huge impact on how people find you, what they learn about you, and then, getting them to come in as well.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, with automation, Joe, you don't have to remember to ask. Your CAs don't need to remember to ask. The system can actually do that for you and stuff, and then you never miss a beat. And imagine the difference, you guys, between having 10 or 20 video testimonials or Google reviews or whatever, and then having a couple thousand, right, or even a couple hundred. It would make a massive difference, right? All right, as we start to wind this piece of it together, Joe, let's talk about reactivations and the value of those in a practice.
Yeah, so reactivations are also really important. I feel like I'm the John Madden of chiropractic advice here. If you get the most points, you're going to win the game, which is really good for your team. Reactivations are usually a reaction of our part to our bottom line. Business is slow. I'm going to have my CA call a bunch of people who didn't show up and see if we can get them back in. Or I'll do a mailer or a this or a that.
And every CA in the world, sorry to interrupt, every CA in the world hates that part of the job. Hates it. Just hates it.
Oh, yeah.
It's not fun. Anyways, sorry to interrupt.
Especially now when nobody answers their phone. They know that the one person who does answer is not going to be happy to hear you.
No, not how it works.
I thought I made my point when I stopped coming in, but let me reiterate. Being able to streamline reactivations is a really easy part of just making sure that we're getting people back in. Because if they do disappear, it's not because they're done with chiropractic every time. It's not because they hate you. It's not because they're dead or they moved. It's just because life got in the way, right? Again, the best of intentions is as far as we often get. By automating reactivations, just in a way that simply says, if somebody hasn't been in for X number of weeks or X number of days, put them on the bump list. So, a bump list is, here's the list of people that we're going to automatically go check in with. Do we need to pull any of them off just to make sure that we're not, poking a hornet's nest? And then after the bump list clears, the system reactivates. And that can be, text message check-ins. Hey, Joe, it's been a couple weeks. How you doing? Dr. Mike. It could be an email with, we've expanded care and this, that, and the other thing. It could be, a signed card. So I use a fun little service because I like handwritten things, but I don't like handwriting things. So I use a partner service that integrates with my program now, that you write a little personalized note, and it has a little robotic arm with a pen that writes it on a note card for you. So you can write a personalized note to 50 reactivations like that. And because it's automated, it happens all the time, constantly. So we're not sending 500 people a message all at once, because God forbid, if any of those reactivations worked and they want to come back, it floods our office, puts us off, off pace a bit. And it just creates a problem down the road, because that wave is going to bring us up and get us real busy and panicky. And when it comes back down again, we'll be right where we were before. Right.
No consistency in that, Joe. No, for sure. Right. So I love how we can, weave these parts together to help create the time freedom, create the consistency, to know exactly where you stand, and to have the mental and figurative freedom to do the things you love to do, which is, laying your hands on folks and or educating them. Right. So, all right. So Joe, let's just ask this question. So I want to go to the chat on this. What's been most valuable for you so far, and why? Let's get a couple of folks to throw a couple of things in the chat, and if anybody be willing to come off mute and share what's been most valuable for you so far, I would love to. Let me just change my screen here so that I can see all your smiling faces. Let's see if you guys can throw it in the chat. What's been most valuable so far, and why? What is this doing for you? What is this prompting for you? What are you starting to think about? What revelations are maybe coming to you? And again, people with busy fingers, If some of you would rather just talk for a second, I'd be really happy to take you off mute or get you to take yourself off mute and we could hear. Dan's going, wow, there's great potential for automating our office even further. Yes, there certainly is, Dan. There's no question. Fraser goes, testimonials sound amazing. Also, video online education. Scott says, winners keep score. Dodie says, recording special appointments. Yeah, there's a lot of good pieces here, you guys. Janet says, having a weather report to know where they are. Becca says, stepping into patient education online. We've only been talking about that for years. We know that, Becca, right? And Mary says, the automation process takes out the emotional aspect of doing the work or not doing the work, right? As the case may be. So really good points, you guys. And thanks for sharing those ideas, right? So Joe, let's go through and let's bring this baby in for a landing and let's talk about how your system specifically does it. We've been talking about a lot of generalities and a lot of great John Madden level knowledge, but let's bring this baby into some specifics as we bring this conversation in for a landing over the coming minutes.
Sure. So I like models. I like to make them. I have a giant whiteboard on my wall over here, so I can draw them all day long. I like to simplify them as much as possible because automation is really scary. Technology is always a headache. One of the little taglines I used to have back in my agency is we put the SH in IT because it's so disruptive. So how do we not do that? Right. I think there's really 3 blocks to build on. The easiest part of implementing any of this is scheduling and new patient qualifying, because that information is something that people are used to, right? Just like with QR codes now, after the last however many years it feels like it's been, we all know what a QR code is because restaurants don't have menus in a lot of places, and you just scan the codes and it gives you information. So automate is pretty easy. Ask people questions so that they can answer them in forms. Have an online scheduling tool that automates at the very least your new patient appointments so that people can say yes and you can get them slotted in. And that's just the start, right? Like getting things going so that you don't have to deal with every single person every single time. Optimizing is where we move into things like the online education, like several of you mentioned, and being able to nurture your patients, letting them know special events you're doing, and building out a YouTube channel or other way to get video content out helps optimize the experience. Dan just asked you a web page to do new patient optimization. I think it's important, having some kind of a page where you can include the information. And I've got a bunch of examples out there that, although I think I'm running out of time. So, in optimize, it's how can I make the patient experience better, right? How can I get them the education they need? How can I bring them along? How can I invite them to really be part of the culture that I'm building in my office? And then in grow, it's reactivations, referrals, and reviews, all the REs, right? And that's helping get the word out and making sure that people stay in touch. That's going to be a way that we can safely grow. You'll notice on here, it doesn't say the tip of this, or the foundation is go pay a marketing company $2,000 a month to run an ad for you. Quite honestly, I don't think you need it in a lot of cases. If you follow this type of a process, it's easy to say yes. It's simple to feel like you're part of the team, and then sharing information with other people to bring in referrals is just kind of second nature. I'd argue, how much more marketing do you really need, right?
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I'm a big fan of models as well, Joe, right? So I'm glad that, and actually I love triangle models. So we are, definitely on the same page on that. So, all right, well, let's just move through this, Joe, and let's talk about how that can happen. Let's talk about consistency, Joe, and what you've experienced with your client base. And by the way, if it's not transparent, you guys, there are a very small handful of people in the world who we think add tremendous value to clients or people in our tribe and our family. And Joe is one of them, and his program is one of them. And that's why, he was invited here tonight and to share this, because it really fit well with our work smarter, not harder, sort of theme, particularly in the world of automation versus adding to payroll. So if it's not transparent enough, Joe's here by invitation only, one of a very small group of people that will actually be invited in the next 12 to 16 months. So I'm appreciative of your presence here, Joe, and appreciative of people's ability to get here and hear some of the wisdom. So let's talk about consistency, Joe, and how that ties together.
Yeah, I think this has been a theme of what we've been talking about for the last bit here is consistency is really the key to making anything work. And it's always a huge problem. That's why being able to automate and rely on software support makes it easier to do that because you no longer rely on a human to do the same thing every single time. Once you the little robot doesn't get tired, right? It does what you tell it to. But in order to be consistent, we hop to the next one if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that, Joe.
One of the challenges I gave an office in Windsor was document what you do, everything. And so the office manager did that. She wrote down, and this is a zoomed in part. There's a lot more to this. Every single thing, every single time that happens with every interaction in the first year of a patient. It's a lot. and it was exciting though, because she said just by doing this, she started to realize where there were some duplicative things happening or where they thought some things were happening that they weren't. So it wasn't until they started to really write this down that they could simplify it, which the next slide. This is the workflow that they ended up with their new patients. So they could very easily know exactly what's happening. And this we were able to automate because this is more manageable. So we know my system, which is called Evergreen, captures information and then a flow happens. So everybody gets the same interactions. They get the same engagements. If they raise their hand, the office knows about it instantly. Lots of benefit to it, but we only got here by going through the messy part. Now we're able to create that consistency.
Love that, Joe. Love that. And by the way, when I saw that earlier slide, Joe, I didn't know whether I wanted to puke in my mouth or go reach for a bottle of scotch.
You got scared when you saw that the first
Oh,
time.
I got terrified. Absolutely terrified.
Like, are you sure you want to show this to people? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Fab Fives, Joe.
Yeah. So 5 touch points in the first 5 minutes when somebody puts their hand up. Okay. Web page should tell them that we've got their information. They should get an email. An SMS message should go out to their phone if it's a cell phone that not only says, hey, we've got your information, here's what's going to happen, but should also include your office's V card. If you don't know what a V card is, if you open up your phone and you go to contacts and you tap on one of your contacts, that shows you like their picture and their name and their phone number and all that. That's your V card. So I build a V card for every one of my clients that has their logo, the office name, phone number, email address, the map for directions, and the first text message sends them the V card. So what do? They tap the card and they add it to their phone. And now they have directions to the office, which is the number one reason people click on our ads and drive up our costs, is to figure out how to get back to the office. They know when our text line is going to text them or when our phone line is going to call them. So now they know who we are. And this absolutely makes a big difference. Pushing to new patient paperwork. I automate this as well. Being able to fill out new patient paperwork online should be easy. It shouldn't be a PDF that they've got to print, scan, fax, etc. So I do online forms that are really simple to get the information. And the 5th piece is what to expect. I'll script out a 90-second video for each of my clients that says, hey, I'm Dr. Joe. I'm really excited that you're interested in care with me. I hope that I'm going to provide you care beyond compare, because your experience is going to be really key to letting me know that I'm doing a good job. The first time you come into my office, it's going to be boom, boom, boom. The second visit, it's going to be blah, blah, blah. We can kind of lay it out there so that within 5 minutes of them filling out something to request an appointment or to say they're interested to get a voucher, whatever the offer would be, they have these touch points. This brings people in the door. Now they know who you are. They know how to reach you. They're getting information. They're feeling validated, and they're not going to go out and look for other offices to fill out contact us pages in the hopes that someone eventually calls them back.
And once this workflow set up, Joe, this Fab Five that takes 5 minutes takes exactly how many human hours?
Well, I mean, the first time we do it, right? Like we type it in. So it takes like 10 minutes the first time to do all this.
Done once, done
and
forever,
then
right?
Never, ever, ever again, right? It
Yeah.
just happens.
I could just see, you know what, if you have any assistants watching this, I'm sure they're just like drooling a little bit, right? Because there's like how much HR time and energy and money would it take to accomplish the Fab Five, right? So Joe, let's bring this in for landing here in our final minutes. How could this help you? So let's talk about this, Joe, what you've got here today.
Yep. So I distilled all this information as best I could into a little form with a cute little robot, because everybody loves cute little robots. At least I do. So this should have been in the email confirmations that you can grab this from a Google Drive, and fill this out, carry it around with you for the week, put it on your clipboard. How many requests come in? How many of those people actually show up? How many of them are committing by the visit? How many are starting care? And then all these different check boxes. And I think what you'll figure out is you'll understand from this process what's most important for you to do right now. Because maybe it is implementing a Fab 5. Maybe it's just taking your new patient forms online. Maybe it's you're not doing anything for testimonials right now. This audit will generally give you a good idea as to what you could be tackling without it being so, well, I got to do everything. Oh my gosh, this is a marathon. This is going to give you a little sprint so you can get a feeling for what you should be doing, so you get some payoff for doing a good job of automating something.
Yeah, absolutely. But for those, Joe, this is a glance at a dashboard. Let's just cover this.
Yeah, winners keep score, right? I said that twice now. My number one pet peeve as a supporter of doctors like you is that none of you all know your numbers. And so passive aggressively, I make sure that when you log into my Evergreen machine, the first thing you're seeing are your numbers. So this is my dashboard. And I'm not a software programmer. I was many years ago, so I understand the world, but I don't speak it. In my Evergreen marketing machine, what I've done is take software programs that fill bits and pieces of what you need in your office, and I've woven them together into what I believe is a very elegant tapestry of success. So all of the different things, and you can kind of see them there on the left side, from patient communication by email, text, Facebook, etc. That's conversations, online calendars, contact tracking, email marketing, websites, funnels, reporting, all that good stuff. It's all in one place, so you can finally manage it, and the homepage shows you whether you're doing a good job or not. You see funnel reports, pipeline values, and then this is constantly updated data, so you don't get a once monthly email report that you have to skim through and never go back to look at again. You can really dive in here and get a feel for how the business is doing.
And for those of you that are moving into that CEO role and are looking to create, leverage by, say, bringing on an associate, it's one thing to know, say, I'm looking at your conversion rate example, Joe, here. This looks a lot like our 5 dials in full circle, actually. But your conversion rate, it's one thing to know that, hey, you know what, you close most of the people that show up for your report of findings, but how's your associate doing, right? And using that as a stat to know, where they're at, right? So the Evergreen marketing machine for healthcare, Joe, let's just take a run through this process and how it actually comes together.
Yep. So this is my model. I told you I like models. I found that me helping an office is as a journey that we go along together. I prefer not to be the sage on the stage, like in this experience. I'd rather be the guide by your side. So what I found is, if you're kind of in that reactive rut right now, there's a flow here. There's a path you can take to get to a point where you can be like Dr. Mike was in the case study, where the automated things are automated. You're building meaningful relationships with your clients. You're growing organically without spending a ton of money on advertising. And you know that your business is working because the data is proving it to you. So that when it's time for you to take that next step, if it's hire an associate, if it's buy another piece of really expensive equipment, whatever business decision you're making, you'll know it by coming out the other end of this process.
Very cool. Very, very cool. All right. So for those people that are quick starters, Joe, what can you offer for them? Because certainly just going through the automation scorecard you provided, Joe, is tremendous value for the energy and time invested tonight. But for those that are sort of the quick start, Joe, and you can just certainly, I'm very coachable, just so you know. You can just give me the, hey, boss, click now kind of a thing, right? But for those that are quick starters and are like, yeah, let me just get in a little deeper. What have we got to share with them, Joe?
Yep. I like I said before, I know software is really overwhelming. And my thing is I don't sell software to people. When I used ClickFunnels earlier, when you sign into ClickFunnels the first time, you've got all this experience and excitement and energy from all the things they're telling you, and their homepage is basically blank. It says, click here to add a funnel. Like, I need that sad trombone, that wah wah. What do? Right? I mean, you all are doctors. You don't have time to go through all of that, but I do. So, one of the things I do with my quick start, I map out 30 days, and the idea is, if you've got 5 or 10 minutes a day to do something to automate, I'm going to show you how to do it. So you can actually get in, and there's not that big blank page staring back at you. But instead, it's here's what you can do right now. Like quick, manageable pieces to move forward. And I find that working together as a group is helpful. So I do this Trailblazers Club every once in a while. My next one's starting December 1st. And the idea is I bring a bunch of people together as we're getting started, and it helps share information and knowledge. I have my best practices of what works really well in the system, and I've got all my designs and layouts and kind of the packages and workflows ready. And in Trailblazers Club, we do these sessions once a week where I'll do a live or recorded video, and we'll talk through a thing. So maybe this week we're going to turn on what's called missed call text back. So if somebody calls our office and we don't answer it, the system can text them back, ask if they want to schedule a new patient appointment or not, and either take a message or get them hooked and booked. So that'll be an episode of Trailblazers Club. We'll go in and I'll do that. And then when we're done building it, I hit a button and it zaps it into everybody's account. So whether you're on the live call or watching the recording, you get the thing that we all built together. And then you can submit questions and ask for the next session of what you want to do, so that you really have a hand in building this thing out, but it doesn't have to just be you doing all the work. I can do it for one, and then everybody gets the benefit of it.
Cool. Could an office manager, sit in on that, Joe? Would that be acceptable behavior?
I'd actually prefer that in a lot of cases, because it's one thing to say, I want to do this, which, no offense, that's what we all like to do, because then that person has to turn around and say, okay, well, to do that, we got to go here. Like, they know the process. When I work with office managers and CAs, it's great because they can just say, here's all the stuff. And I can kind of grab it out of the air and I can put it in and I can spin it back to them. And it works really well. So yeah, it doesn't have to be the doctor or the head of practice doing this.
I do. Absolutely not, Joe, right? Okay. Should we move on, Joe?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, let's finish up these last few slides here. Talk about the full Chiro kit, Joe. What's that?
Yeah, first time that my wife asked me to go hiking with her, I had my phone and my car keys, and I didn't realize it was going to be like an 8-hour hike. I was woefully unprepared for the journey ahead of me, and you can bet that it did not go well. So I know this journey that you don't. So when your account gets loaded in for the first time, I pack all the supplies that you need to go on this journey with me. So it's a really great looking website and a couple of really great looking funnels and a workflow for asking for reviews and flyers for the office, kind of all the collateral and stuff that I've done over the years with everybody kind of gets pulled into one kit. And then I can help you personalize it really easily so that then you get all that stuff too.
Oh, cool. All right. So Joe, let's talk about how this is going to make people's lives easier. Well, I think we've done a pretty good job of covering that, Joe. If you were with us the entire time, well, you're going to know this is going to make your life easier when you can automate, right? So let's talk about the damage, Joe. Just run us briefly through this slide, and then we'll wind this up.
Yep. So Black Friday's around the corner, and retail sales drive me nuts because everybody inflates their prices and they make up these really expensive things so they can show you a deal.
I know the pattern.
I hate that. This is what I actually charge. I mean, I charged these prices last week to somebody who just signed up. So the full Chiro kit is the initial, all the different materials personalized for your office. The Trailblazers Club is that going to upgrade from my program where we build what you're looking for live, and then you get all the access. And the Evergreen Machine is just the full automation framework that does all the heavy lifting for you. So these are my normal prices, and they're what you would pay yesterday. One of the things that Dr. Tom always encourages me to do is be more interesting, because apparently I'm not very. And So since this is
Hey,
the
that was
first,
Jay that said that. That wasn't me. Okay,
yeah, but
sorry, go
he
ahead.
said it like he was looking at you while he said it to make sure that he was saying what you told him to say. I caught the eye line. No, but seriously, like there's no real pomp and circumstance here. I want more doctors to work with, and I like the people that I've met through Full Circle so far have been a lot of fun. They get what I get about your business, and so you all are one of those groups I want to spend more time with, quite frankly. So this is the deal that I'm setting up just for you all. It's not going to be on the front page of my website. I'm not going to email it around. You're not going to find it in a Facebook ad. Uh, $197 a month. The first 3 months of Trailblazers Club is included, and then the $197 locks in. So it's $100 a month off what everybody else pays, and then you get the full Cairo kit is in there too, ready to personalize.
Wow.
So
that's very gracious, Joe, and I appreciate that, because I was asking Joe if I was going to say, Joe, let's test if you're just blowing smoke up our rear ends, but really you do think we're nice people and you do like hanging out with us, or not. And I said, Joe, let's see if you can put your best foot forward and for Full Circle, and certainly you've done that, sir. So I'm extremely appreciative of that. All right. Yeah. So to get them started, Joe, what would be the action step?
Yeah. So theevergreenapp.com/Cairo kit. Let's see. I don't know why that's capitalized like that. Hold on. That looks weird. I think your version of the PowerPoint is slightly behind mine. Don't capitalize the C or the K in Cairo kit, because it might give you a weird error.
And you know what? I can type it right into the chat too, Joe, and then they could just click it there, couldn't they?
Oh yeah, look at that. There's a chat. I mean, I knew that, but hold on.
So the other parts are capitalized, but not the last part. Is that correct?
Let me check it here. Sorry, I'm not good with computers. Hold on.
Oh yeah, I know. There's that.
Yep, that looks like, there you go. I put it in the chat.
Oh wow.
And there's a form at the bottom. If you have questions, you want to talk to me first, let's do that. I'm not going to say you've got 13 hours to make a decision here or anything stupid. But I want to work with more Full Circle people. I hope that the pricing is advantageous. It's certainly less than I'm charging anybody else. So Dr. Price had mentioned he's working with Deer Doc. I know the Deer Doc folks. I don't know what they charge. I do incorporate the platform that they're built on in my system and quite a few other things. So if you're paying some other company for some services now and you want to compare, that contact form at the bottom is a really good opportunity for us to chat real quick, before you want to see if that's ready for you. I'd say the only thing that I would ask in terms of a timeline, because I want to start Trailblazers Club up on December 1st, which is, I guess, next week. I'd prefer that if you want to get in on this, you do it in the next couple of days, just so I can get everybody's account set up and set up the group so that we can all chat together and start working on that. But if you jump in late, I guess that'd be okay too.
And Becca says she's in because she's been trying to figure this out for so long. Dan asked if that's US or Canadian, Joe. The answer to that is what?
That is US.
That's US. That's what I thought it was too, because that's where you have to pay your bills, right? So,
yep.
All right. Well, listen, let's talk about the future, Joe. Again, just before we wrap this up, this is part of a sequence in a series we're doing at Full Circle called Work Smarter, Not Harder. And the next installment of this, trust me, it's not a never-ending saga, but it is an important one, is subtitled The Highest and Best Use of Your Time. It's been our experience that people put together, great intentions. Joe talked about it several times, but the greatest of intentions does not necessarily produce outcomes. And so, people were at our last webinar and they're talking about, creating an intentional time system. And then they get these slots to work on their business instead of in their business, what we call B time. But what the hell are you working on? What is the highest and best use of your time? We're going to walk you through that entire structure. December 7th at 7:30 Eastern, mark it in your calendars if you'd like to get to that next level of being able to make a bigger difference with your life and your practice. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to be here tonight, folks. Joe, thank you very much. I'd love to give you a chance to do last words. And, we're going to hang out for a few minutes if people have specific questions. Any closing thoughts, Joe, from your side before we go to Q&A? Oh, muted.
I got it. Sorry, I can play some charades here. 3 words. movie. No, thanks for letting me do this. I enjoy getting to, I'm not out and about as much as I would like to these days. There's not a lot of conferences happening that I can hop out to. So it's nice to get out and talk for a little bit. I hope this information is helpful. That's the most important thing for me, is making sure that what I'm talking about is understandable. It sounds reachable. And, if you ever have questions, let me know. You all are who I work with. I'm not like a Russell Brunson, and I work with anybody and everybody, whoever, wherever. I like what you all do. I support your mission, and I'd love to be part of it.
I appreciate that, Joe. And we certainly appreciate you being a part of the Full Circle family, both behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. So appreciative of that. So again, for that woodland gnome, as we affectionately refer to them, that's actually monitoring this recording and is going to hit the stop button there. You could stop the recording here. And I think we'll actually do that, but we're going to be staying around for whatever amount of time it takes. If somebody has very specific questions, there's been some great questions in the chat. And